Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to our weekly WeAwake group meditation. And again, it's good to be here. And today or tonight or this morning, wherever it's always 8 o'clock someplace, right? So we're going to listen to a track out of Journey to the Depths of the Soul. And I believe there's 6 tracks altogether, and this is the first one. And it is 20 minutes long. And let me just give you a little background for this. It's done by our collaborator and dear friend and brother whom I've never met in person, but we just established such a good relationship online and Zooming and stuff, with Joseph Kale. And man, I really have a lot of admiration for. He created the entrainment sounds, as well as the guided meditation part. And he is a master hypnotherapist. There's actually a licensing, I think, in the UK where you get that title. So he does that professionally. And he's just a very, very deep guy. And he's also a Shakespearean actor who's played a lot of the leading roles in Shakespeare. And I think that reflects in the beautiful timbre of his voice. And so it's just really special. And we created Journey to the Depths of the Soul because we had, what was the other one? Journey to, the self. Anyway, this capital S, right? The big self, the God self. And there's 2 things going on. There is the kind of ultimate awareness, consciousness, the non-dual self, where you are it and it is you, right there. When your identification goes away, and it's not a terrifying thing, as terrifying as it might sound, but it's like, wow, it's really, really beautiful and powerful. And experiences like those have given birth to all our religions and our spiritual traditions. And so we get to have those today too. But I was talking with Joe, and I said, what about doing one about the soul? Because the soul is that kind of really deepest place inside of you, of yourself, where the lessons maybe that you've learned from past lives, if that's going on. I have some indications that it might be, but I can't prove it with a test tube and a computer program, but it seems to be that. So the lessons that we've learned there, the relationships that we need to work on, what we're here to do. And that's why it's really important that we get in touch with that bit of ourselves, because that is like the deepest place where you can still hang out as your individual self, that doesn't begin just to fade into the allness of God, if you will. So the soul is a very important thing. And the Eastern religions have been really pretty good on the non-dual big mind enlightenment and those traditions. And the West has been more, there's more focus on the individual soul and the individual psyche and psychology, etc. So this is taking us a practice to take us to the depths of our individual self. And lo and behold, it is God also, like the famous Sufi saying, I looked for God and found only myself. I looked for myself and found only God. Anyway, but they're connected, and I just love this track and love Joe and love you guys. So why don't we get rolling on this, and we'll see you on the other side.
Take a few moments right now to settle back and to settle down inside. get a sense of sinking down inside yourself. A little bit more with each and every out-breath. Allow your breathing to be smooth and flowing, letting each breath be as smooth as silk. And allow yourself to be present with that which is present. You can allow the muscles of the face to soften, and you can relax the little muscles around the eyes. You can allow the jaw muscles to loosen, and you can allow the shoulders to release. Letting a sense of comfortable heaviness flow down through the arms.
I'm on mute. You think I'd get this after 15 years of doing this, but anyway, it's the little things. I thought that was terrific. What a beautiful thing that is, you know. I think it was Walt Whitman, one of our great American poets. He said, "Do nothing that insults your soul." You know, that's a pretty good rule of life. And unfortunately, when we do something that insults our soul, we know, yeah, our soul lets us know if you've, you know, stepped off the course. But yeah, and talking about listening to the voice of your soul, and I think it's just, you know, just living a life of depth. And, you know, in the United States, the most negative parts of us, this culture that we've curated, and there's a lot of really great things, a lot of noble, beautiful things, but it's the shallowness which life is lived, you know, from one, you know, cell phones and iPhones and Disfits and Batflix and, you know, games. Oh my God, if I started playing computer games, I'd probably never stop. I've kept away from computer games the way I did cocaine. It's like, no, I like this way too much. I can't do this anymore. So yeah, a little shadow from my past, but and why is that important? You know, about depth, the living from the depth, because when we begin to get in touch with our higher power, then I think part and parcel of that as an individual human being is we begin to sense into our higher purpose. You know, it's like, oh, this is what I'm here to do. All right. And you load back, and it really helps you kind of understand your life path, and you reflect and go, I've been sick for the last few months, and I've had a lot of time to self-reflect. It's almost been watching movies. They say you review your whole life before you're ready to die. Well, apparently I wasn't ready to die, but I certainly went through that process, and they felt very real. And when you do that in the light of soul knowledge, if you will, it begins to put it together, and it makes a story and makes a coherent journey. And you can see why why you had to go through this stage and that stage, and why you had to make this mistake, and why you had to do that. And when we find that, it is a great antidote to existential despair. And I know if guys have had existential despair, I certainly had, for years, like, what the hell am I doing here? Is there any purpose? We just show up and play the game. There was a song from the 60s, I think it was by Steppenwolf. They said, they'll call you when you're 6 years old and drag you to the factory. For 18 years, you'll rack your brain and drown in self-security. Then you're free. 40 years you work to chase a dollar sign so you can die in Florida at the pleasant age of 69. Oh, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Great lyric. And yeah, that shallowness, and there's no peace there. There's distraction. There's states of being occupied and excited and this and that, but there's really no depth of peace. And I think that's what Joseph is guiding us into in that particular track. And and here we are. How long are we into this whole pandemic thing? It's been over 2 years. Seems like forever. I cannot barely remember a time before it. It seems, but I was planning to do. My plans were very different than what it turned out to be. But I think I have used the time to meditate more, to study more, to pray more, and to there was a beautiful Christian monk. It was Wayne Teasdale, and he passed away, I don't know, a while back, but I really liked him. And he wrote a book called Being a Monk in the World, because most of us aren't called to go to a monastery and live there. That's very, it's not much going on. I mean, that's not happening anymore. And we've spent some time at monasteries, and there wasn't a great deal of enlightened folks running around, so maybe we're what Wayne was saying, Brother Wayne was saying, that we're called to be monks, or at least to cultivate that part of ourselves. And with all this time we've had on ourselves to be with ourselves, might as well go deep, because it gets pretty boring otherwise, and it gets pretty shallow again, and there's not a lot of joy there. There's just a lot of anxiety and despair and feeling of powerlessness and all that stuff. So the journey is definitely worth taking. And it doesn't mean, you're happy all the time, and you don't go through stuff and you don't suffer, maybe even more, because you become more sensitive. But there's definitely, there's direction and purpose. And those moments when you feel that, this is God coming through me. This is I'm being used as an instrument of my higher purpose. It's really terrific. So I think we're going to do another vision quest later this year, online vision quest, right? Weird thing is, it really works. Okay, using this technology in the presence of people coming together, even that we're all over the planet, it creates a field of energy that invites that deep exploration. So look forward to that. And one last thing, speaking of soul journeys, the Deep Transformation podcast, or full name is Deep Transformation Self, Society, Spirit, is being released today. Oh my God, and it's been about a 4-year journey, and I've been saying a 4-year journey for a long time, so it's probably more than 4 years, but it took a long time. And we did a bunch of really great interviews in the beginning, but there were technical problems, and we had to go back and work through the glitches and whatnot. And then of course the pandemic, because we were actually doing interviews in person. We'd go to a conference and all these great people. We'd bring them up to the motel room. This was me and Roger Walsh, Dr. Roger Walsh, who's my co-host, and terrific stuff. But anyway, there was a lot of things that intervened. But at one point, Roger said, "You still want to do this?" And I went, "Oh yeah." He says, "Well, good. So do I." So we persevered. And Heidi, she's actually the producer, kind of director of the whole thing. And Vanessa, who's not here today, has really put a super lot of work into it. And I think we're going to release like 5 interviews, 6. Yeah, and some of them they're just outstanding. I mean, it's like a peak experience to be part of these things and listen to them. And I think Roger and I, as we moved on, we became a better team, and we kind of learned how to play together, and how, man, I can't do what Roger does, but I have my own bit that I contribute, I think. And we have Jamie Wheel, I think is going to be released today. I don't know if you know Jamie, but he's just one of the brightest minds, spiritual minds. He wrote the book Stealing Fire, about flow states, and he just did this one. God, I can't remember the name of it. It is something about sex and God, I think. Anyway, Recapture the Rapture. Yeah, then it has the underheading, which is that's fantastic book. And we also interviewed Christopher Bache, who I read one of his books, must have been 20 years ago. It really had a powerful influence on my life and my understanding of non-duality and what I was experiencing. And he wrote a book called LSD and the Mind of the Universe. Got that title right. And he did 72 very disciplined LSD sessions. And he said they weren't trips, John, they were sessions. In other words, there was a purpose and an organization, and it was all set up, and there was a person there overseeing it. And it just became a revelatory journey where they were connected, and it just to the highest levels that we've ever seen as human beings at this point. And it couldn't come through anybody better than Chris, because he's really smart. He's a university professor of linguistics. I probably missed that one too. But anyway, he's very humble and very smart. And if anybody of maybe less integrity than he, it would sound, I don't know, off, or maybe an ego trip, or maybe something. But with Chris, you really know that you're in the hands of somebody who's been there and come back. And it actually affirmed a lot of the stuff that I've learned on my journey. He just did it. I really resonated with a lot of it, and it's very powerful. And it's really good to listen on audiobooks, because it's almost like a psychedelic journey just listening to the book. Anyway, that's just some of the things, and to be able to finally get these out to the world, where they can get off a hard drive and out where they can do some good and inspire people and help us to transform, self-transformation. Because if we're going to create the world that we need and want it to be better than today, we're going to have to work on ourselves. And because we're the source of all our problems, but we're also the source of all our triumphs. Okay. So hopefully this will, in the 21st century, the journey where we're at now in the journey of individual self-transformation, and of course, the transformation of society that comes from there. And how do we set up our people to be able to live a life of depth and a life of profound meaning, and live from their souls. A lot of good stuff out there about that right now. And that's where we need to go, even though it looks like, it's not going so well right now. That's what evolution is like. And Jeff Salzman says that evolution is beautiful, but it's not pretty, and so we're in crunch time. So there's going to be some real profound changes coming from this. And so what we can do is pray, meditate, hang together, and do the best we can, and help one another, and help all sentient beings. And that's what we're here to do. So find your path, your higher purpose, and rest in your higher power, and you'll find a great place of refuge and peace. And of course, we feel these tracks that we're producing a great tool in helping you to stay with the practice and advance much more quickly than you would have been able to do otherwise. So I think that's about enough for today, guys. Anyway, thank you. Love you guys, and keep practicing, and you know, keep giving us feedback. It keeps us here. So appreciate it. Thank you guys for meditating with me again. Really can really feel your presence when I go inside. So.